And we are live. Welcome, mystery and thriller fans. I'm your on-air host, Sara DiVello, and I am so excited to welcome tonight Lindsay Cameron here for this very special pre-launch Q&A. She's going to spill the tea on all things scandalous private schools, murder, and more in her brand new red-hot book, No One Needs to Know. Lindsay Cameron, welcome to Mystery and Thriller Mavens. Tell us about this book.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. No One Needs to Know is my latest suspense novel, and it is set on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. And the residents there all love to use this anonymous neighborhood forum called Urban Myth. And Urban Myth is a place where they go and anonymously talk about neighborhood gossip. They, unburden their conscience with a confession that they've always wanted to tell somebody. They tell secrets that they've always wanted to tell, and they can do this because the forum is anonymous. But when Urban Myth is hacked and the true identity of the people behind the posts become public, the neighborhood is rocked, and some people will do anything to keep their secrets hidden.
Anything at all. Well, we are here for the scoop, Lindsay, and I can't wait to get into all things dishing the dirt because we need to know what's going on in here. So first, I just want to welcome everyone. So if you've been here before, you know the drill. It's Mystery Monday, and because Mondays can be murder, we're going to make them a little less painful for you. So if you're new, welcome, friends. We're so happy to have you here. So every Monday, we dish about the latest mysteries and thrillers, and I give you my hand-picked 2 featured authors, and you get to ask them anything the night before their book comes out. So ask Lindsay Cameron about this urban myth. Where did the idea come from? All things private schools, scandal, anonymous, moms acting badly. We got a lot to talk about, so let's dive in. So just go ahead and type the question in the chat. I'll get that right over to Lindsay. If you're in a private Facebook group, you can be anonymous, so feel free to share. Donna, welcome to the conversation, joining us live from Fort Worth. Great to have you here, Donna. She says, I loved this book, 5-star material. Yay.
Oh, thank you so much, Donna.
Thanks so much, Donna. Let us know what you loved about this book. Tell us in the comments. Meanwhile, Urban Myth, where you can unburden yourself anonymously. Ooh la la, indeed. We have our first mystery person who's down revealing herself. Hi, Lindsay and Sara from Wendy. Hi, Wendy. So great to have you here. Thanks for joining the conversation. Donna is saying it's a good reminder that anything on the internet is not necessarily anonymous. That's a great point, Donna. Lindsay, let's start there. So where did this idea come from for this anonymous unburdening until, oh, wait, it's
So the initial idea for this book came to me years ago when I was a new mother, and I went to one of these new mom meetup groups in my neighborhood, and another mother there asked me if I knew about this anonymous new parent board for the neighborhood, and she told me that it was highly entertaining. And I could not imagine what would be highly entertaining about, a new parent board. So I went home, very curious, and went on, and I was expecting to see posts from people who had a parenting question and they wanted to do that anonymously. And there was some of that, but what there was way more of was people using this as, like a confessional to like confess things they've always wanted to say, secrets. And I was just fascinated by it. It was highly entertaining. And I was just really interested that these people just trusted that it would stay anonymous. And that just really stuck with me. And then fast forward a few years, and there was the infamous Ashley Madison hack. And that was where the user data of the people who had, gone to the site to try and have an extramarital affair was made public. And it was all over the media. And people talked a lot about whether or not you could remain anonymous online. And I thought back to that new parent forum and thought about all those people who had trusted that their secrets would stay safe. And I was just thinking, if there was a data breach of that forum, what would happen to all those people? And so that was where the idea started, and then it grew from there.
Wow. So first of all, I'm so fascinated by the idea that anybody, clearly I am a cynical, non-trusting person because I'm just so fascinated by the idea that anyone could think that data could be safe and would unburden themselves anonymously.
Mhm.
And I'm also very interested to um, think about a new mom website, people using that to share secrets and unburdening themselves. So, first of all, Lindsay, have you ever unburdened yourself anonymously?
I have not because I'm like you. I'm very paranoid of all things online. I'm even a reluctant social media user for my own paranoia. So I think it's why it just struck me so much that these people really trusted this. Like anytime I would read a new post and, there was like just gossip about coaches or teachers or affairs, and there was white collar crime. And I'm just looking and I'm thinking, like, how in the world are you putting this out there? Like I would never do that, but lucky for me to keep me entertained, tons of people did. And I think they just really wanted some kind of a forum to just put it out in the universe. And this was what they chose to do, where they chose to do it. It was just very interesting.
Right. So, I mean, yeah, that is really interesting because I'll tell you something. I have had people unburden themselves to me on flights, on
Mhm.
trains, on long haul buses, when you're next to someone for 8 hours on a flight. And people have told me, I don't know if I have one of those faces where people are like, let me tell you everything. But people have, have told me really personal stuff about about their sex lives, about things they've done that they've regretted. And meanwhile, I'm like, I don't even know your name. And then it occurred to me, maybe that's part of the allure. I don't know. So I'm sort of fascinated, as clearly you are, by this idea. Um,
I
ooh,
think a plane is a good place for it. People know they won't see you again, so they'll tell you their secrets. So, I mean, that makes sense. It's the same sort of thing that they think it's going to remain anonymous.
but what is the allure, I guess, of just therapy? Is it therapeutic to get it off your chest? Maybe you should be going to a therapist where you have to then sit with your stuff and then work through it. It's just like, I'm going to just get this off my chest and then never speak of it again.
I mean,
Maybe
it's
that's
funny. I guess it's like something innately human that you just have to get it off your chest or it's going to just eat at you. But you're right. You should probably be going to your therapist instead of the person sitting next to you on the plane.
Yeah, exactly. Interesting. Interesting. So our anonymous user who's revealed herself, Wendy, she says, why do you think I am online as Catch a Clue? So usually Wendy shows up under her pseudonym, which is Catch a Clue. So Wendy, tell us, why do you are because Wendy's never said anything scandalous that I've seen. So Wendy, what is it about? Is it privacy, or tell us what you're thinking? Tell us what you're thinking. Meanwhile, y'all, I want to get to some of this amazing praise that this book has earned. So we have so much to talk about. So let me start to share some of these rave reviews. So I'll kick off with Robin Harding, who is coming on the show later this spring with her book, The Drowning Woman. And I'm going to pop this up so we can all read it here together. And here's what she had to say. Ambition, adultery, and murder collide in this sly, witty thriller. No One Needs to Know is a juicy page turner that will leave readers gasping and guessing until the end. So first of all, congratulations on that amazing bit of praise. And let's talk about, this is not your first rodeo, Lindsay. So what have you learned about the secret to writing sly, witty thrillers that will leave readers gasping and guessing until the very end? Spill your secrets here.
Spill my secrets. Well, my very first book was actually women's fiction. And when I was writing that, my agent at the time said to me, I want you to pace it like a thriller. And I didn't actually read a lot of thrillers at the time. I read a lot of women's fiction. And so I went and I got a bunch of thrillers and really studied the genre, and fell in love with the genre at the same time. I loved, the pacing and like the need to turn the pages and the edginess. And so that's how I kind of taught myself how to write a thriller, was by studying the way that other authors have done it. So I feel like if I was going to give advice to somebody who either wanted to switch genres or who really feels like they had a thriller inside of them, is to really take out to read the books that are in the genre, and to not just read them but study the things that are working or not working, or when you feel like you're getting bored in that book, why, and like which ones are paced really well. It's almost like you can use these other authors' books as textbooks for your own writing.
Ooh, interesting. So first of all, I'm interested that you were later to the genre, because so many
Mhm.
authors come on here and they were like, I was a Nancy Drew girl. I mean, I was a Nancy Drew girl. I was
Mhm.
a Hardy Boys girl. Like I was
Yeah.
growing up lifelong lover of the mystery genre. So it's so fascinating to know that you were actually a later convert. You were primarily a women's fiction reader, and then writer, and then only through the suggestion of this editor that you learn the secrets of thriller pacing did you segue over. I'm fascinated. So what did you love about women's fiction, and what resonated and got you coming over to our world?
Well, I was a Babysitters Club person when I
Oh
was
my God,
young.
yes.
And
Yes.
so that was, I kind of liked the drama, the gossip in Babysitters Club, the friendships, the broken friendships. And so that sort of segued me into women's fiction, which is, sort of just grown up Babysitters Club. And I enjoyed that for a long time. And then when I was introduced to thrillers, I always thought of thrillers, sort of the male thriller writers. I didn't kind of know the thriller genre from the female point of view. And
Interesting.
those were the ones that I, took out and studied. And so it was not so much like John Grishamish, it was like the female point of view, Patricia Highsmith and all that great stuff. And I was like, oh, they're dark and they're edgy and they're fun. And I just then knew that my next book had to be a thriller.
Very, very cool. So great to know that that is your path to come into the dark side. Leecha, welcome to the conversation. Joining us from Texas, saying hello, ladies. Hi, Leecha. Welcome to the conversation. Always a pleasure to see you pop up. Donna saying, Lindsay, you have mastered the pace. The twists just keep coming. So let's pause there. So, Lindsay, bring us into your process in terms of pacing, which Donna is here to testify that you have mastered. Do you plot it out and then say, okay, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, twist, twist, chapter 4, chapter twist, chapter 5, twist, twist? I mean, or do you just sort of, are you a pantser? Do you just let it evolve? Do you go back and say, ooh, dragon here, got to pick up the pace? Walk us through that.
I wish that I was a plotter, because I think the whole writing process would be so much easier for me. But I'm a pantser. I have my general idea for what I want with the book. For No One Needs to Know, it was an anonymous forum that got hacked and then secrets are revealed. I have it usually the idea for my characters, where it's going to start, but where all the twists and the pacing comes in sort of happens in the process of drafting. And
Mm.
in doing that, there's a lot of times that I'll write 30 pages and it's not paced well, and I
Ooh.
can tell when I'm sort of going through it that I'm like, I'm bored writing this. So someone is going to be bored reading it. There's too much backstory. There's not enough something going on. So the pacing comes through in the editing, and it's many, many drafts, which is why I wish I was the type of writer who could, make the outline, know that like 20% of the way in they wanted this, another 20% they want this. Mine is much messier of a process, but I've sort of just come to terms with the fact that that's my process.
And how long does your process take?
And the first draft takes about 4 months, but then there's about 6 to 8 months of editing that, because my first drafts are very bare bones. Like in some of my first drafts, I'll even put like insert something suspenseful at the end of this chapter, and like when I'm going back, I'm like, what did I put there? So the real work happens in the editing, and that takes 6 to 8 months.
So when you write those notes to yourself, insert something suspenseful here. Do you have an idea of, oh, like, oh, I'll just kill someone off, or do you have an idea what that might be, or you literally are like, think, like?
I'm usually, when I'm putting those notes, it's because I've sat there all day, like exactly as you say, think, staring at the screen, like can't figure out how I want to end that chapter. And so I'm just like, I have to move on. I can't keep burning time with this one thing. And
Mm.
so I hope, like I put in my placeholder to insert something suspenseful. And then as I go on, I'm hoping that I'll be like, that's what should happen back in that chapter. This person dies, or this person shows up, or just something like that, where it'll come to me. But if I stay stuck too long on that one part, I burn a lot of writing time. So I got to put in that placeholder and move on.
Keep it moving.
Mm-hmm.
Margaret Pinard joining us from Oregon, saying, insert something suspenseful has potential as a title. Oh my God, Margaret.
Actually, that is a good title. I mean, there you go. Margaret, you could write the book.
So your fellow women's fiction author here, Margaret Pinard. I mean, Lindsay Cameron, if we see your next title come out as insert something suspenseful, I think Margaret should get a shout out in the credits, in the acknowledgments.
But I do love that title.
That is such a great title. Leecha says, hi, Lindsay. She would like to know, do your book characters talk to you? And if they do, have you ever had to change something in the story because of it? So let's take the first part of the question first. Do they talk to you?
That's a great question. They kind of eventually do. Like, because I do so much in the editing, I learn more about my characters. Like in my first Bare Bones, I feel like if I go back and I read that, I'll now be like, that's not what this character would do. That's not what Nora would do. That's not what Poppy would do. So as I get to know the characters better, I can, like with Poppy, she, she's very sort of devious and judgmental.
Well,
and when
tell us who Poppy is first. Tell everybody who Poppy is.
Poppy is one of the characters in the book, and she's kind of like the queen bee. She was born into old money, and she has married into money now, and she's sort of at the top of the social hierarchy, and she's very comfortable with her spot there. And so when I would be writing her part, she kind of has a darkly humorous, judgmental side. And so I would kind of feel her voice telling me how she was judging this other person. And in terms of, have I had to change something in the story because of it? Sometimes, because I do get to know them, the characters, a bit better as I'm moving through each draft. And sometimes I'll be working on toward the end of the draft, and I'll think, you know what, now that this character, I know this character is this way, they would not have done whatever it was in the beginning. They would not have said that. They would not have engaged in that conversation. And then I do have to go back and change something at the beginning. And so they evolve.
Evolution is an interesting way to put it, because they are becoming more real to you, and you're trusting them and trusting the creative process to say, this, I was wrong, this isn't who they were. So I like knowing that, and having the humility and the open-heartedness, the open-mindedness to say, no, I am going to change that. Leisha, thank you for the thought-provoking question. Lindsay, thank you for the great answer. Margaret saying, Team Pantser unite. Margaret, I did not know that about you. Good to know that you are a pantser. So I used to be a pantser, and I'm going to put it out here publicly. I'm going to try to plot my next one because it's just too painful, you guys. Like if I put it out there and then I'm like, I write myself into a dead end. That's probably just a me problem. And then I'm like pounding my head on the desk, like, why did I do this? Why did I do this? So
that's not just a you problem. I've definitely written in directions where like it is a little bit of a dead end, and I've got to go back and, figure it out. I do wish that I could plot it out, but I feel like I have to learn so much about the story as I'm going. I can't just sit down and do it in an outline. It has to be like through the writing.
Interesting. Okay. Leach has another good question. Who was the hardest character to write and why? So we've got Poppy, the queen bee. We've got Nora, the working mother, splitting her time between her big career and her parenting duties with her husband and daughter's stepfather. And then we have Heather trying so hard just for her kid. But you know what? Let's answer this question first for this book. And then if this book came easily, let's open the aperture to any book.
I would say these three characters, it wasn't that one in particular was hard to write. What was difficult was to make them have their own unique voice for each one, because both of my other books I just had a single narrator and it was told in the first person. And so I don't think I realized when I started how different it is to have three different points of view, where you have to give them each their own, their own unique voice. Your reader has to feel when they're reading the chapter, oh, this is Poppy's chapter. I can tell because this is how she speaks, or this is what she does. And that was the difficulty with writing all three of the characters, was for each point of view, giving them their own unique point of view, their unique voice. And that was something I hadn't experienced with my books before, with the previous two books, with just one point of view. So that was a learning as I go process.
It's interesting because my next book has 4 POVs, and this is also my first time writing multiple POVs. And I had read that if you're going to write multiple POVs, the reader should be able to cover the name of the person's chapter and take out all the names and still know whose chapter it is. And I thought, that's intense and also true.
Actually, I think that's such good advice. Like, I feel like if I'd had that advice when I was in my first draft, it would have been helpful, because I was just so used to one point of view that I'm like, oh, I'm telling 3 people's stories. Like, this is how I'm telling it. And then, I mean, in an initial draft, you definitely would not have been able to tell the difference. Like, I wish somebody had told me that about multiple points of view, because it's true. It is true. You do have to be able to do that. But it took me many drafts to get there.
And it's also hard because you have to be careful you're not projecting your own voice over theirs. Like, what would I, Sara, do? What would you, Lindsay, do? It's like, no, what would Poppy do? What would Heather do? What would Nora do? It's like, that's hard.
Yeah. And you can't sort of switch that. It's like, Nora's voice, but it's Poppy's chapter, it's important to keep them unique.
Really, so true. So true. Leach is saying that is so awesome, Lindsay. Thank you so much for answering my questions.
Thanks for your great question.
Thank you for your great questions. That's what we're here for, you guys, is connecting, talking writing, talking books, talking all the things. Okay, I freaking 100% love that this next question is anonymous. Are any of the characters based on some of the parents in the group you are in?
That is a very good question, and a question that I feel like I'm going to get a lot of from other parents that I know too. And the answer is no, they're not. I do take things from my own life, people that I have encountered or situations, but then when I'm putting it in my book, I dial it up by 20, so like, even if it was based off of one particular person, it would be unrecognizable because the personality would be different. So no, they're not based off of one particular parent, but I do, in my acknowledgments in the book, I say, if you recognize that it's not based off of anybody, but if you recognize yourself as one of these women, then it is absolutely you.
Well, I'm going to go on the anonymous mom website and tell everyone that it is. You're welcome, Lindsay.
Thank you. Well, I would probably have everybody want to read it then.
Interesting. Oh, Wendy, it was you. Thank you, Wendy, for letting me know. So again, we are going live to 7 different destinations. 3 of those are private Facebook groups. And because of Facebook's very strict privacy laws, if you're in the group, we can see it, Wendy, and I'm glancing at one of my multiple screens. So I see you there. Thank you. But if you're outside of it, you have to announce yourself. Margaret would like to know, She said, I was thinking on how to find writer voice as a reader. Does it equal protagonist voice minus consequences / spin? Okay, that's a mathematical writing question. Lindsay, it's all you.
I mean, I'm just looking at this equation: protagonist voice minus consequences spin.
Interesting.
Is that the writer voice? Voice is something that is so hard to describe. I actually remember my previous book, which is called Just One Look. My agent said that she wanted it voicier. And I was just like, I don't even know what that means.
What does that mean?
Voicier. I'm still not quite sure what it means. But I think that voice is something that's just kind of getting inside a character's head and seeing their own unique way, how they would interpret exactly what you say, how they would interpret a consequence or a situation. You know, one character would interpret it one way, another character would think it's the worst thing ever. And that's all sort of told in a unique voice. An author that does it really well, I think, is Caroline Kepnes, her You series. That voice of Joe Goldberg, like anybody who reads that series, you could know kind of how he would respond because she's done it so well. She's mastered that voice.
Interesting. And it's interesting too, because when I was on submission with my book, one of the editors who passed on it said, your voice is too strong. So it's so interesting, right? Because it's like, my voice is too strong. Yeah. They want more voice with you. It's like, listen, no one's going to be for everybody, and that's okay.
No.
But yeah, that it's very interesting because it's almost like, if you're sassy, be sassier. If you're sad, be sadder. If you're you know, if you're angry, be angrier. I don't know.
Yeah.
Licha's saying, thank you once again for answering my other question. I love your answers. Oh, Licha, we love your questions. Thank you. We have someone saying, hello, Lindsay and Sara. Another mystery user. Is it from someone from your mom's group? We don't know, Lindsay.
Maybe.
We don't know.
I need to get the goods.
Margaret's laughing at Facebook strict privacy laws, right? Facebook's such a hot mess. Parrish, welcome to the conversation. Wanting to know, wait a minute, there's a Harris in your book. Interesting. Harris, the traveling spouse of Poppy. Did you have a moment in your writing process when you realized that the book had to go in a different direction than what you had originally planned for? Great question, Harris.
It is a good question. So, I mean, this isn't a spoiler because it's in the description that somebody does die in the book. And I didn't know who was going to die when I started writing the book. So that's how much of a pantser I am. I just am like, someone's going to die in this. So did I realize it had to go in a different direction than I originally planned? I don't go in with too many original plans. So the directions it goes is always a surprise to me, just like it is to the reader.
Ooh. Once you decided who to kill off, was that it? I like how you're like, I did not know who was going to die, as though you weren't there. Like, how could I have known? How could I have known? Lindsay, you killed them. That's how we know. So when you decide, we have to take responsibility and accountability there, Lindsay. When you decided who to kill off, did you ever think, maybe I'll kill someone else? Or once you knew, and that person was getting the axe?
That's a good question. I think I probably did have, you know, when you're writing it and you're so close to it, sometimes you worry, like, is it obvious that this is the person? Or, you know, because you know all the things. So sometimes I would think, should I make it this person when I was already in the direction of one particular person? So I did consider killing off other people as well. But once I knew who was going to be the victim, I felt it was a good choice.
So when you decided who you were going to kill off, and now knowing, thanks to Leach's question, that you do hear the voice of your characters, was anybody saying, no, not me, please?
They were all saying, not me. They all wanted to live, but that's like,
Madam, let me live.
Yes,
You're like,
that's a
no.
quote author you hear that don't tell me.
Oh my God, I love it. Margaret wants to know. So if your protagonist does something bad and gets in trouble for it, the writer's voice is advocating not doing that thing.
Does something bad and gets in trouble for it.
So let's think of Violet. She got caught vaping. I'm doing that like I know what vaping is. I think it's more like I don't know. I'm a straight edge nerd who's never vaped. But anyway, so she gets caught vaping. So then she's feeling bad. She got caught. There's going to be repercussions for her potential collegiate career, the rest of her private high school. So her voice is sad. Her mom's voice is blaming, angry, guilty. I mean,
yeah, I think in those situations, what the author is really trying to do, when any of your characters have made a bad choice, is you want your readers to understand why they've made that choice. And so as a reader, you don't necessarily agree. Some of my characters happen to be unlikable, but like what I like for a reader to do is at least understand why they are the way they are, like understand from Violet's point of view why she would do this. And when you see her overbearing mother, it kind of gives you an indication. And a lot of times, in terms of the writer's voice, you are kind of advocating for that character's point of view. You know, you're seeing things like in Poppy's chapter, you're seeing things through her lens and advocating for her point of view. And so that's where kind of the voice comes into it, is their background, why they feel that they've made this decision, and why it's, you know, everybody always thinks their decision is right. And so why have they made those choices?
Ooh, great thought-provoking question. Thank you, author Margaret Pinard, for this very thought-provoking, really illuminating conversation. Lindsay, thank you for the great answers. Margaret saying, I like that. A character who you could add lib for because their POV is so predictable and strong. Going back to Carolyn Kepnes' example of Joe, she said Cruella DeVille comes to mind. Oh, great example.
Yes, that is a good example. I mean, when authors have created that type of character, that you could close the book and sort of know how that character would interpret something in your life, like then they've done their job. Then they've done a really good job.
I love that. Oh my goodness, we have author Georgina Cross in the house.
Hi, Georgina
Cross has entered the chat. Hi, Georgina. So I met Georgina on site at Thriller Fest last year, grabbed her, dragged her into my interrogation room, shined the lights in her face, and grilled her real good. Georgina, I'm coming for you again this year. If you will be there, let us know.
I met her at Thriller Fest as well. So yeah.
Stay ready.
Great. And she actually also provided an excellent blurb for this book too. So
let's get over to her blurb. Speaking of which, I'm going to pop this up for all of us. She calls the book Scandalous and Delicious, which is my favorite kind of scandalous. So Georgina, tell us what you loved about this book, and tell us how you like your scandal. Besides, oops, I popped up the wrong one. Besides Delicious, of course. Oh my goodness, Randy, welcome to the conversation. Saying thank you for joining us tonight. I can't wait to read this, Randy. Be sure to read it and then let us know what you think. Everyone, pre-order the book tonight. I'm going to pop that link up right now, and then hop over to Mystery and Thriller Mavens, where all the good tea is spilled. We talk about what we're reading, what we're loving, all the latest. Margaret is still laughing at the idea of Sarah baby. I know. I think I looked more like I was playing the flute or eating a sandwich because
maybe eating a sandwich. Yeah,
yum 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 grilled cheese. I love it.
That's a good thing, though. That's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not ashamed to admit I am a total dork. Oh my goodness. And she is saying there's got to be another author parlor game around what would blank do, but using famous literary characters. Oh
Oh,
my God,
that would be
Margaret.
fun. That would
That's
be very fun.
brilliant idea. Oh my gosh, Georgina, you have a fan in the house. Donna saying, I'm so excited to read Georgina's next book. Oh my God. And then Georgina, you have to come on. So let us know what's up with that. Meanwhile, I want to get to some of this other praise because y'all, the praise just keeps coming. So Samantha Bailey, who has been on the show and also at Thriller Fest, told me, saw me walking by and said, Sara, take our selfie. You have really long arms. I'm still thinking about that long arm comment, Samantha. But she had wonderful words. What?
I think that's a compliment.
Is it though? I don't know. I was like, am I Inspector Gadget over here with my like extendo arms? She says Lindsay Cameron is a genius at putting the players in place and making us sympathize with their wrongdoings. Then with devilish twists and turns, she unleashes her characters, their secrets spilling out in spellbinding, heart-thumping mayhem. This is an irresistible read. High praise there from Samantha Bailey. And she came on for her last book. She's not the only one. Liv Constantine, who's coming on in two weeks with her next book, The Senator's Wife. Stay tuned for that. She says No One Needs to Know is a tantalizing peek behind the curtain, concealing the secrets of the uber elite on the Upper East Side. It's Big Lies meets Gossip Girl in an unputdownable read that is as smart and witty as it is delectable. I raced through it. Amazing praise from her and so many other authors. Hank Philippi Ryan saying a brilliant and cautionary tale. Do you think this is a cautionary tale? Are you warning the other moms to stay out of your way?
Well, I don't know if that's the cautionary tale, although maybe once they read this, they will stay out of my way. I don't know.
You should.
But I hope that people think about what they put online, especially if they think it's going to remain anonymous.
Yes, exactly. Because I'm still just sort of fascinated by the idea that that anyone could just be posting anonymously. I mean, it's like, and that they're going to get away with that. I'm like, wow, I wish I was that trusting.
If you look at how many people were trusting of that Ashley Madison site, like that they were not going to get caught with that. Like people trust so much more
than
a
level of trust I've just never known, Lindsay.
I don't think I've ever had that level of trust.
Never. And now I feel bad for both of us. Yeah. Publishers Weekly raving, this is a fast-paced intrigue spiked with social satire. Sounds like a drink I want to sip. Those inclined toward a fizzy cocktail of suspense and Schadenfreude should enjoy. Oh my goodness. So y'all, this book is not even out. It is out tomorrow. And Lindsay is coming on here, her first exclusive pre-launch tell-all to take your questions. So here is that link from our favorite woman-owned independent bookstore. That is, of course, Murder by the Book. So no matter where you're watching from, here's the link on to click and buy, and then you too can immerse yourself in the world of No One Needs to Know. So grab that book, y'all. Grab that book because you're going to want to see these scary moms, these deviously and delicious moms. Mm-hmm. And then we can talk. Is Poppy your fave? Is Nora? Are you more of a Nora? Are you a Heather? Are you a Poppy? We need to know, y'all. We need to know. So hop on over to Mystery and Thriller Mavens and tell us what you think of the book. And then also whether you're whether you're Team Poppy, Team Heather, or Team Nora. Here is the link to Mystery and Thriller Mavens. Lindsay saying your book, Leach, excuse me, saying your book sounds like such a great read. It really is, Lindsay. It's very delicious.
Thank you so much.
Y'all, we are actually over time, but time flies when you're having fun. Lindsay Cameron, thank you so much for coming on to give us the inside scoop on No One Needs to Know. Y'all, thank you for spending your Mystery Monday with me. Stay tuned to the top of the hour. I have Danielle Gerard spilling the tea on Up Close. So go grab a snack, grab a drink, and see you then. Lindsay Cameron, come back when your next book is out.
I definitely will. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. And I will see you on site at Thriller Fest.
Sounds good.